Our today's webinar is going to be recorded, and the link to the record will be sent to you by email, but also you'll be able to access it on our website. Together with the recording, we are going to also share with you the presentation, which is going to be part of this webinar today.
If you have any questions during the webinar, please don't hesitate to post them in the dedicated part of your GoToWebinar set. We will try to answer them all at the end of the webinar.
If we don't manage to answer all of them, we are going to send you an answer separately to your email. Okay, let's start with our webinar today. First of all, what are our objectives for today? We want to introduce you to CompoSIDE material database. We call it CMDB. And also, as a part of this introduction, we want to underline how important composite material data is to deliver successful projects. We also wanted to take the chance to show you how CMDB, the database, can benefit your organization, and how can you incorporate the features and the data which is stored in the CMDB. The agenda for today, we want to start with criticality of material data. Then we'll give you a very, very brief overview of a CMDB, which is one of the modules of the composite platform. And then we are going to show you how to use CMDB to build and use material data within this module. We are going to also look at some user cases. So this is going to give you a good feeling on how you could use it in your organization. At the end of the webinar, we are going to answer the questions that we are very welcome to post in the webinar question box. Okay, let's start with the first part, the importance of the material data. For all people who are involved in composite design and composite business, it's clear that designing a composite is quite complex. Could be quite complex process. It involves three elements at least, which is materials, process, and design. Those three elements are interlinked, and they need to be designed together, or they need to be investigated together. So importance of material and process data is very, very important to the end result of your project. Today we are concentrating on CMDB, which covers material part of the projects and also a bit of the processing. But as you can see, we also showed you other modules which are part of a CompoSIDE platform, which covers other part of the design process. Now we are going to show you briefly how CMDB is organized, how it's interlinked with other modules, and then we'll go into next part of how the CMDB works in details. So let's switch to our platform. Okay. I'm just handing it over to Ola. As you can see, Ola is logging into the platform using a standard browser. Our web-based architecture allows people accessing the platform from anywhere in the world with internet access without need of installing almost anything. Centralization and server-based architecture allows us to store data in one place, and it's always consistent and accessible to all people having access to the platform. Okay,
now I'm in CompoSIDE, and now I can access my composite materials database, and it's here. As you can see, all other modules that Radek mentioned are also available, but today we're concentrating on CMDB. When you open the application, you can see the three main parts. The first one is the tree on the left with the list of your project materials and access to other libraries, and we will tell you more about it later. The second part is the window with the list of materials and the very basic data. As you can see, every material is actually a link. I can right-click and get access to all options of the contextual menu here. And the third part, very important if you are looking for a very specific material, it's filters. And we will also touch that a little bit later.
So this is basically the architecture of a CMDB. You can see that this is all Windows-based, so you can open multiple Windowses. You can compare different materials very easily. You can use advanced filtering if needed. So there's quite a lot of function which allows you to find your way around composite material data, which are stored in CMDB. Now switching back to our presentation, we are going to touch slightly on the subject of material data management in CMDB, how the data is organized, how you can use it in different parts of your projects, and what data is stored in CMDB. So you've seen this is a part of our tree which we are going to use to indicate the different material libraries. First is the material library, which is provided by CompoSIDE, which consists of quite a few, 244 at the moment, generic material data. We are going to show you what data we have, but these are the generic materials which can be used as an initial stage of your design. We provide functionality for all customers to have their dedicated proprietary material database, which is basically accessible only to the customers and can be managed and built internally to be reused by the users on the other projects. And lastly, we have project dedicated material libraries, which is basically material library which is used for materials used for the projects. So you can copy either material library materials or company materials to this library and have dedicated standalone materials for your projects. So you can build your project materials very easily. The workflow, how it works, we are going to show in live just now, and Ola is going to switch. Sorry, I forgot one more thing. Ola just reminded me. We also provide one more functionality, which is allowing you to organize your materials in projects. We call it material selection. So this allows you to group materials, and Ola is going to show this functionality right now in CompoSIDE.
Okay, so we are back in CompoSIDE. Okay, let's just look for a material in our material library. Let's look for a foam honeycomb core.
As you can see, we cover quite an extensive range of material types, starting from metals, matrix and reinforcement materials, down to ply and laminates, woods, and quite a lot of different materials. You can search from them using filters or search options and find the materials that you like.
And if you wish to use it in a project, you simply drag and drop the material to the tree. All done. It's ready to be used. It was copied to your project material database. The same with company materials. If I wish to use some material in my project, I can simply drag and drop it to my project materials.
So as you can see, it's very easy to build your project material database or library, which can be used by the project team without compromising your data, company data. And so you can build your materials and be sure that your data is safe. And
if you are privileged enough, like me, I am the application manager, I can also choose to copy some project materials into our company library. So again, simply drag and drop the material, and it's part of our company library, private company library now.
This is one important point which Ola mentioned. It's about our roles and permissions in the application. We allow certain rights to certain roles, and this way we control and ensure the data consistency and security. So not all people will be able to copy materials to a company library and so on. And also, if you take the project material library, also some materials cannot be modified based on the roles and permission for projects.
Okay, and to touch the last thing, as you can see, we've created 3 material selections. We put all our plies here, cores in a different selection, just to make it easier to manage our materials within the project.
Those material selections are used in different other modules of CompoSIDE to allow you to filter materials in a very, very easy way. It's down to the user to organize the materials the way they want. It could be based on processing, on material types, and so on. So it's very flexible.
And as I showed you, if you have many materials, you can use filters, advanced filters, to find the material you're looking for in an easy way.
So we touched the element of how the materials are organized, the libraries in CMDB. Going back to our presentation, we put together this workflow, which is basically summarizing what we've just done. This will be provided to you as a part of the presentation. We don't want to spend too much time on it, but it shows the three types of libraries and project selections and how they interact in between each other. Now you might ask yourself the questions: what data we have in the CMDB, and what is the value of this data? We all know that material data is quite, there is a value in the data, and you need to provide material testing to achieve certain project goals. And many projects cannot afford it at the beginning to conduct full testing. That's why we think that CMDB provides a very, very good value in this case, and enables many projects to start and conduct preliminary part of the projects. So generic material data, which is supplied as a part of a composite material library, which is provided to all composite customers, provides ability for all people to start the preliminary design and to make some decisions based on those generic data, and then postpone or even delay the testing of the data, which will confirm the material properties at the end of the process. The material data is based on existing data, on experience and testing which have been collected for years by CompoSIDE. Okay, now we are going to next part of our presentation of functionalities which can be found in CMDB, and we are going to concentrate on how to use and build your data. So we are going to show you three types of materials that you can build, which gives you a pretty good understanding of what is available. So first of all, we are going to show you how to manually create material using potentially test data that you have and reuse certain reference materials. Then we'll jump into our micromechanical model called Plygen, which will allow us to create very, very quickly and efficiently ply materials. And then we also introduce you to the layered materials, which is quite a unique feature of CompoSIDE.
Okay. First, let's create material from scratch. I mean, there is no point in you looking how I fill in all the fields. That's why we're just gonna duplicate a material and edit it to show you what data is stored in CompoSIDE.
This also shows you that you can reuse data, you can duplicate materials and reuse existing data, modifying only the parts of the data that needs to be modified. So all is modifying general data. This box gives you ability to control, for instance, the description and the data source, so you can really document from where the material comes from and provide other things, which is generic data. We use a naming convention for the materials, which is provided as a part of a material library, but you can change it. But I think it's a good way of naming the composite materials. Another block is material log, where you can log the changes. We are planning to change certain data in this material, so Ola is typing now that she's going to change the stiffness of the material. And this log is going to be available to all people, so they are going to know that this has been changed. Another block is material characteristic. CompoSIDE CMDB provides quite a wide range of different materials. We organize materials by their types and type groups and subgroups and material types. This allows you to build your material data in an organized fashion, but also look and view the material data in a very, very efficient way. The next one is the composite material characteristic. We, of course, we are editing ply, which is a composite material, and there are certain elements which needs to be defined, which are building blocks of this ply. So we're defining the reinforcement type, we're defining matrix type, and this information is then used in the processing module, which is, for instance, a bill of material module, which allows you to estimate quantities of certain blocks. In here, we would put some manual physical data. So if you have a testing data, you know your fiber volume fraction, densities, and so on. So some of them can be filled in manually. We have also some automatic recalculation done. So basically, if you change, for instance, stiffness in here, allow us to change stiffness, and you can see that the allowable strength has changed. So this is recalculated based on your modified properties. Okay. Now, one more element which is quite important and can be efficient when you want to reuse data is that you can select your reference material for different strains and strength results. So I can select different material to copy all the properties. Now, at the bottom we have thermal properties, certain properties which are related to failure criteria, commercial data, which is basically pricing. We provide some generic and indicative pricing for materials, which allows for engineers and project teams to make quite a good indicative comparison of commercial elements of the materials. And the last block, which is the bill of materials, specific parameters, which allows us to define processing related things like fabric width, uncured thickness, overlaps, and so on. Those are used in the material quantities and bill of material module.
Okay, so all my data was saved.
Mm-hmm.
As you can see, the same blocks are listed here for a quick review.
As we mentioned, there are different types of materials. Some of the blocks are shared between different materials. Some there are specific for other materials. So, for instance, for cores, you can see that there's a core-specific properties which are indicating certain properties which are core-specific. But in all, they are quite consistent, so you can find your way around very quickly when you build your material data.
If you feel that you need to include some more data in your material, you can easily do that and create a wiki page for your material. And we did that.
Yes, we did it before, as this is also part of the material data, so you can build, in general, in Composite, you can build wiki page for any object in the system, so it's the same applies to material. And we showed you the example of this wiki page, which we created for the materials. You can include different things like data sheets, which is the source information for the data that you use for this material, and other things like other documents, testing data, and so on. So this allows you to store and have a quite consistent data set for the material that you use.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
That's it for the manual creation.
Mm-hmm. The next one we wanted to show is our micromechanical module, which is Plygen. We call it Plygen. It allows us to build very quickly ply based on this characteristic definition of the plies and building blocks. So let's do it.
Okay.
Going step by step, so we can select whichever ply type we want, and we all are selected biax. And processing, which we selected pre-preg. This selection predefines you certain things which are related to the properties, like fiber volume fraction, void content. You can change it, but we indicate values which are typical for processing and ply type. Now we are selecting building blocks or matrix, this is also the materials which are predefined in our project materials, and we define the weight of the reinforcement. As you can see, this automatically calculated live the physical properties like density and thickness and areal weight. And now, based on the material type, we have directionality ratios, and also we can define the reduction factors. For instance, I just defined longitudinal compressive modulus reduction factor by 5%. And this also calculated automatically stiffness with reduction, incorporating the factor. The same as we did for the manual material, we can select reference material for our strength and strain values. You can also indicate it and type it manually. but this is one way of efficiently reuse your certain materials. You can modify them and bring different materials by using a lock function. So we lock in certain strains which are not going to be changed. You can really build quickly your material for your project. Defining the price is a commercial part of this, and also, as you can see, program provides you the name suggestion based on our input of processing, of weight reinforcement, of the building blocks and type of laminate. You can change it manually anytime. This basically generates your ply, and also you can see that in description it's clearly written what assumptions were on building the material. All the things are there for you to basically go and check.
Okay.
Okay, and the last material which we wanted to show you is layered material. Before we jump into this, I wanted to explain what's layered material. If you go beyond the autotropic material, it's very, very difficult to characterize it by testing and having universal characterization, because it depends on the angle of your ply. So what solution for this is that you use a mix of the material testing and classical laminate theory. So you build your layered materials, which then can be reused as a part of your stack-up. So you can imagine that you can build either quadraxial or triax, or even C-plate, which is the multiple plies, and then you can derive the properties. And instead of building it many times, you can build it and store it as a material. And this is why the layered materials have been created. We are going to build one material now to show you how it works, and to show you that this is the way to handle multi-layered or multi-axial materials. Okay, all I inputted the name. Of course, it's all generic data, so you can put the data source and so on. And now we are selecting material characteristics. So you can see this is a list of the materials that we support at this level, and now I'm selecting the layered materials. Material type group had been automatically selected. We selected multi-axials, and in this case, I just selected biax to keep it simple. Of course, you can build quadraxials, triaxials, and so on. We're selecting composite material characteristic, which is needed for our processing modules like bill of material, which allows us to to derive quantities. And also, as you are going to see later, we define the shear properties angle, which indicates at which orientation we want to calculate the shear properties for this particular ply. Now goes into our mini lamina space, which is part of this material creation form, and applies into this definition of the ply. And as you can see, data is calculated live, so you can see that the stiffnesses, the thickness, and strength and strains, all of those strains are calculated automatically for this particular layered materials. Of course, it's all assumed as a plane stress ply, so we are still in a thin ply assumption. Of course, this ply can be used in lamina, where this assumption is not true anymore, because it's just using all the plies that build the lamina. To show you that you cannot treat the properties changing with the angle, and this is true for other materials. Biax is autotropic, but if we build triax, it will be even more obvious. When we use instant rotation function, you can see that certain properties like allowable strains and stiffnesses are changing. So you can review live almost what properties you have for your layered materials. Okay. I think that concludes really the way we handle material creation in CMDB. This is something we want to show as a brief overview of what you can do. You can build other materials like metals or isotropic materials, cores, by going to the same kind of process. Now we wanted to move on to next part of the functionality, which is embedded in CMDB and is part of a wider design process. is material data handling. So we've created material data, and now we want to be able to compare, to use this data somehow. So we are going to show you how this is done in CMDB. So we're going to show you a few things like properties for calculation, material normalization, and data visualization, which is part of it, and material export. And also we're going to touch one more element, which is part of the material handling, which is quality assurance. So we are going to touch things like roles and permission, logs, dependency check, and wiki, which we already showed you a little bit.
Okay. So if I simply select my project materials and right-click on them, I can easily see the properties for calculation for all the materials that I've selected.
This is basically data put in a consistent and user-friendly way. So it's post-processed, certain things are calculated, and they are put in the way that an engineer can take and use in first principle calculation or share it with other people. So we basically provide share properties for those materials. So it's calculated at 45 degrees to the material main directions. And this gives you ability to compare certain materials. You can view it in tabular way, but also you can compare it on modules, on charts, and this allows you to quickly visualize difference between different materials. Okay, we compare here different unidirectionals of different grades, and this indicates the difference in materials properties.
Okay, those properties can also be exported. So again, I'm just right-clicking and exporting the properties for calculation.
This is exported to Excel in uniform and consistent way, so you can imagine that you can use it in your Excel calculations or in hand calculations by reusing data in Excel. Okay.
Another way is to export a material table more suited for your drawings.
For drawings or for reports. So the same data is formatted slightly differently, so you can include it in in your reports or drawings. Ola going to bring this table now. So the same materials shown in different ways. You can see that at the top. At the top you have a bit of the quality control, so you know when and who exported it and from which version of CompoSIDE. So it's very clear indication where the data comes from.
Okay. Now another thing you can do, you can normalize your materials.
Mm-hmm. This is quite a useful tool when you want to compare different materials based on different criteria, like weight, specific properties based on weight or price. You can normalize to the density and to the cost of material, and you can compare or indicate which is your reference material. So you can indicate different material and compare the ratios, so you can see what is the difference really if you select different material. You can compare it on charts, which is quite useful, and this can be used in the report or share it with other parts of your project team members.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
We showed you also only the properties for plies, but in a similar way you can handle different materials like coarse and isotropic materials. So it's not only dedicated to composites. It's quite versatile material data management tool.
Okay, we've mentioned that the materials are used in another CompoSIDE modules. Mm-hmm. So we want to touch a little bit on the quality assurance of the data. For example, if I try to delete this material, CompoSIDE will stop me because I've already used it in my project in a multiply material and in a bin section. Mm-hmm. So you can very easily check if a material is already used.
This gives you dependency checks, so you can either replace material or check the element, so you can access this element from here as well by having a link and manage your material selections there. So this is quality reassurance, so it's ensuring that people are not going to remove materials which are used in the system.
Another thing, I can check the logs for my material.
Mm-hmm.
to see who edited it, exported it,
and what was the action and when it happened. So it's a clear indication of the history of the material. So if someone changed the properties, you are going to know when and who and what happened to trace the material.
Okay. Again, we discussed a little bit on the wiki pages that you can create for your materials.
It's a part of also quality assurance. You can keep things like material safety data sheets and other things which indicates the source of the material and other things which are related to your quality assurance.
And remember, not everybody can do everything. You can have guests in your applications that will only have access to preview the data, not edit it in any way. And only managers can copy project materials to your company library, so be sure the data is saved there.
I wanted to also mention one thing, which is probably one last thing on the material post-processing, which touched earlier on, is ability to link it with other programs. As you can see, we have export to Excel, which we showed you, but there are also other functions which are part of our add-ons functionality, which is part of Composite plans. We have a link to Ansys ACP at the moment available, so you can export the material data to external software.
Yeah, and a little sneak peek, we are currently working on other APIs for
functionalities. Yes, it's going to be even more versatile and flexible to use your material data in other tools. Okay, I think this concludes really the presentation of the functionalities in CMDB. We wanted to give you a really indication of how the CMDB can be used, and this is something that I'm going to show you now. First, user cases basically we believe it's centralization and sharing, which is inherited from the web-based architecture and centralized databases. That if you work with dispersed engineering teams in different offices, you can easily share and have consistent data used by all the team members using this platform. This is quite unique and quite powerful functionality, and big selling point for this material database. Another user case is the material data access. We know that this is quite difficult to get data when you start with composite design or composite projects. So CompoSIDE provides generic data, which is quite powerful to start efficiently your project, to have feasibility and comparison of different materials. So all organizations with limited access at the moment to composite material data can sign up for CompoSIDE and have access to the full generic material list, which allows it to accelerate the projects. And lastly, we believe that CMDB is an integrated part of a full suite of the tools which we provide as a part of CompoSIDE, and therefore it's dedicated to organization developing composite projects in full, not only based on material properties, but as we mentioned, to cover all the three elements: design, processing, and material data. And we believe CompoSIDE is a unique platform to do this type of integrated design very efficiently. Those are the three user cases that we wanted to present to you, so it gives you a flavor of how you can use it. We believe that there are other user cases which can be worked out as quite a flexible way of using this this material database module. Okay, we concluded the presentation. We were quite quick today, but we know that time is an essence and it's quite precious to you. So we jump into question and answer session at the moment. We have one question at the moment.
Yes, there. Chris is asking, when adding plies to a multi-axial laminate, does the laminate have to be symmetric, or does asymmetry affect the calculated properties?
That's a good question. As I mentioned, this is plane strain assumption, so it's assumed it's zero curvature. So basically, there's a symmetry added to your layup, and the properties are calculated for the zero curvature layup. Of course, when you use it as a part of your full laminate, then the asymmetric layup is taken into account in your full design. But the properties which we have shown you, it's only indicative and based on the symmetric layup.
Okay. Another question, and a good one. Are new materials added by CompoSIDE? Are they instantly available, or are they only available when you start using CompoSIDE?
The material library is available to all our commercial users. So there's a certain set of data provided to our trial users as a starting point, and these are copied to your company material database. But all our commercial users have access to our material library, and basically all the new materials which have been added by CompoSIDE are instantly available to all the users. So if we add material, it's instantly available to all our commercial users.
And we try to constantly add new materials and also review the data already provided.
The review of data, it's also not, it's very important to say is that all our modifications to material library doesn't affect the company material database and project material database, even if the materials have been copied from the library. They are separated, and they are your proprietary data once you build your own database.
Okay, are there any other questions?
There's another question, is that you mentioned that there's material costs in CMDB. How do you get these costs, and how often they are updated? These are generic indicative costs, and we try to update them regularly, but you should take extra care when you make your commercial decisions based on those data. We update them regularly based on our knowledge of the market, but as we know, this is quite dynamic, so it's indicative and allows you to compare materials, but I would be careful with using this as a starting point for your commercial decisions. Another question. If you update data, do you inform users and explain why? I understand this question is to CompoSIDE, and of course, if we update any data, it's a part of our release process, so it's going to be indicated by email and by release notes, and all people who might be affected, they will be informed, obviously, as a part of our notification system, which is part of CompoSIDE.
Okay. Do you work closely with material manufacturers?
This is a good question. At the moment, as you've seen, we provide very generic data. We don't have specific data, although there are some indicative manufacturers for the certain materials. But to be honest, we are in the process of defining our cooperation with different material suppliers, because we know that this is one of the elements that our users want to have. And it's interest from both sides, from users and for material manufacturers, to have data in our database. There's one more question, is can you log project materials from modification? Only partially. It can be done through the roles and permissions. So if you don't want things to be changed, you need to allocate certain roles to your users. So you can make them guests, for instance. Of course, there is a way to lock it. If you think that your project is finished, you can archive your projects, and then no modifications can be applied to any elements, including materials.
Okay, there is one very good question. Is it possible to import test data from other files, for example, from test machines, and to fill the physical properties automatically?
This is something that we mentioned during our webinar. We are working to provide API functionality for all people to build their own ways of importing and handling material data. At the moment, we have some functions which allows us to bring Excel-based properties in a given format. So if you have a need to bring your material data, we could help you in this. But shortly, there will be API, and it will allow you to do it yourself. Of course, there's a question what data is in our database. As we mentioned, this is generic data, so it's based on certain data available around, which have been collected by CompoSIDE. One thing which I think is important to underline is that the data which is stored and provided, these are characteristic values. So we don't include any partial safety factors. They are only characteristic values which are statistically post-process test data or data provided by different sources that we trust and we verified ourselves. I think if there are any more questions, please don't hesitate to post them after the webinar or even now when we are going to go through last part of our webinar. We are going to answer all the questions by emails, the one that we haven't answered. We are glad that you are posting those questions. Those are very, very important part of our webinars. To get your feedback is very, very much appreciated. Okay, one more thing that we wanted to finish our webinar, and maybe for those of you who already been with us on previous webinars, it's not going to be anything new, but we think it's quite important to tell you where you can find more information and where you can learn more or find support on certain things, because we believe that support is quite important part of the product, and we will do everything to provide you very, very efficient and support, because we know that this is important. So we provide support and training website, and this is the page that have links to our all sources like tutorials, which are available on YouTube, and there are frequently asked questions. There are support documents which are part of the technical documentation. There's a knowledge based and also part related to webinars, so where you can find the past webinars and invitation or registration page for the future webinars. So please don't hesitate to visit our website and find your way around or ask questions to us. Once you sign into CompoSIDE, of course we are going to tell you in a minute how you can do it, we have another ways of getting our support efficiently. So we provide a technical knowledge base and portal. It's an integrated tool where you can post all your questions and requests and tickets, and we are going to reply to you very efficiently. There's technical documentation as a part of CompoSIDE where you can access it at any point. And we have YouTube channel with tutorials, which I mentioned as well, so you can access it directly from CompoSIDE platform as well. And we have integrated live chat, which allows you to ask any questions at the time that you are going to work with CompoSIDE. If you're stuck, if you have a problem, or if you don't know what to do next, we are there to help you. So please don't hesitate to use any of those channels to contact us or find your way around. Now, how to get started? We provide 30 days free trial with full access to all the modules, standard modules. We can also give you access to all the add-ons that we provide. So you can see what you can do with CompoSIDE for 30 days. We provide certain credits, so you can use those credits to use functionalities. And also, as a part of our standard plans, we provide 2 plans at the moment, which are suited for different organizations. So, small plan, which is 250 euros per month subscription, which is dedicated for small teams, not intended to use quite heavily FE modeling, which is part of CompoSIDE as well. And the bigger plan, which is dedicated to the bigger teams with more hunger for engineering resources and modules. It's very easy to sign up. You can sign up for the month or for 12 months. It's very, very easy to start using CompoSIDE and use what we show you today. So please don't hesitate. Visit our website and get a free trial today. It's in a matter of minutes you can have access to the trial version of CompoSIDE. And you will have it at any place with internet access. Exactly. As a part of a trial, we provide 5 simultaneous users, so you can check how it works with different offices or different people involved. There's limited space and limited composite units, credit given for you, so you can see what you can do with this for a month of using CompoSIDE. I think that concludes our webinar today. We hope that you enjoyed this webinar, the 4th webinar. Of course, we encourage you to sign up for the new webinar, which we are going to hold after holiday time. This is going to be a webinar that, dedicated to our processing module, which is Bill of Material. We mentioned it during our previous webinar, and we are going to show you how to use the material data in this processing module. We welcome you to this webinar. Please visit our website. You can sign up for this even today.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your time, and we look forward to seeing you next time and becoming a user of CompoSIDE. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.